Welcome to the Becoming babyREADY podcast, your podcast for queer family planning. My name is Sam, and throughout this podcast, you'll hear me have conversations with professionals who work alongside people who want to start and grow their families, as well as parents of intentionally created families. Everyone I speak to identifies as being part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. This is your opportunity to learn answers to questions you didn't even know you had. My guests today are the authors Perfectly Muddled, and I can't wait for you to hear more about their journey to become parents, both as they were living in Canada and through the Children's Aid Society of Canada and the training and the foster program here, as well as in the UK when they settled back at home and grew their family by one. Welcome. I'm extremely excited to be sitting today having a chat with Graham and Shaun. Welcome, Graham and Shaun. Please tell us about the members of your family.
Hi, Sam. Well, I'm Shaun and
I'm Graham.
We are husbands. We only got married last year, but we've been together for 14 years now. And actually, one of the reasons we waited to get married was we wanted to start our family first and have our child with us when we got married. A choice that we are very happy we kept. We started our family 3 years ago. Yeah, I'm trying to keep track now. Crikey.
During one of the lockdowns.
During lockdown, which was fun, where we adopted our child, and they're now 4 years old, which is great.
Wow. And it goes by fast, right?
Super fast.
Way too fast. We have a saying, don't we?
Yeah, one of my Canadian friends said to me, the days are long, but the years are quick.
It's true.
It really does. Yeah. We just had another birthday, and it's like, my goodness, like another one is crazy.
It's true, and it does go by like that. And as I was telling you before we started recording, my eldest is 26. I've been doing this parenting thing for a long time, and I look back and I think, first of all, how can that person be 26 years old? Because I just gave birth last week. I think it feels like it's gone so fast, but yet when you're in the thick of it and somebody says something like that to you, you're thinking, the hours are interminable. It feels so long when they are so hands-on and they need you so much of the time.
Oh,
yes. And then they say the next best thing that they say is, just wait, you'll miss it. Really? I'm looking forward to getting to a point where I will miss this sometime.
Yeah.
I first learned about you and your family through Instagram, which I will absolutely make sure that I connect people with in the show notes so that they can find you on Instagram. But I found you on a book page. Can you tell me a little bit more about the book?
We can, yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about where it started. It was as all ideas come from, one random Tuesday afternoon. We sat in the library, me and my son, and we went through book after book after book in this library, and we just didn't see anything that resembled our family at all. It was a lot of mum and dad this, mum and dad that, which is understandable, but I couldn't find anything in that library with the two dads. And so we came home and talked about it and actually decided that maybe we should write our son a book. So we sat and we thought about our family dynamic and what that would look like and how that would look in a book. And we made it, and we liked it so much that we kind of thought, well, if this is our story, perhaps it's someone else's story. So we looked into a little bit more, and actually the world of self-publishing is a lot easier these days than it ever used to be. You can stick a book on Amazon, and if you know what you're doing, it's fairly straightforward to self-publish a book, right? And so we launched that there and got some lovely feedback. A lot of our friends instantly were like, we bought a copy, we love it. And then it spread, and it's like, we need to let more people know. So that's where the Perfectly Muddled Instagram handle came from, to let people know. And since we've joined there, I didn't really see it coming. We just met these amazing people that I've never really been on Instagram too much. I don't want to age myself, but I'm a Facebook person. So we went on Instagram, and there's this incredible community that I didn't know was out there. Such a great resource, and we've just connected with all these people, and it's just made us want to keep telling our story, just to keep sort of evolving it, right?
Yeah, totally.
And it isn't just one book you've done now. You've got another one coming, or one that just launched right at the beginning of April, another one.
Yeah, that's right. So we did My Perfectly Muddled Journey to Space. So after we did our first one, we did our second book, and that was more to do with something that really bamboozled us in the adoption process. Absolutely no one had prepared us for, which was that when we went to the foster home to collect our son, it was the handover, and we were so excited and so happy, but no one had prepared us for the, I don't want to use the word distress, but there was an element of, sadness of leaving a foster family behind. The unseen bond that was being broken hadn't really been explained to us, and it really sort of knocked us for six. We had to stop on the way home and
on what we were gaining and not what they were losing,
which no one had really explained to us. And so we wrote the book more so that so people are aware of that scenario, and that people can actually take this book and read it before a child goes to join a forever family of having to say goodbye, and that the foster family have taken a child as far as they can go before their forever family can come along. And so it was something that we write about things that we're passionate about, and that was something that kind of spoke to us, right?
Yeah, very much.
I love that, and I want to come back to that because I do think that that's a really truly powerful statement that you're making by writing a book like that, that shines so much respect on the children that doesn't often happen. We often give lots of respect to the parents who are willing to adopt these children who are in the foster system. So I want to come back to that. But let's back up a little bit. You adopted your child. How did you come to the decision of how you were going to create your family? Was it just a given, if we're going to have a family, then we're going to adopt through the foster system, or was it a little bit more back and forth?
I think it was a fairly easy one for us. Like we had a lot of other, same-sex parents that had done surrogacy, and we sort of discussed it. But I think for us, it was always adoption. I don't think
we'd always never had this overwhelming need to biologically parent a child. We've always just had, we reached a point where we had enough love that we felt we could share with someone else. And it was just knowing that there are so many children out there that do need that forever family. That for us, it was just, we just had a lot of love to give, and it didn't really matter too much, how we started our family in that sense. We didn't feel the need to take the surrogacy option, but I absolutely understand why people do. But for us, it just never really entered our thought process. It was always, we've always really just talked about adoption as well. I think the cost as well is something definitely that sort of, for the cost, we always said to ourselves, for that kind of money, think at the start we could give a child that's being adopted instead. And it's always kind of been our mentality, I think. And yeah, absolutely no regrets, but that's how we started our family.
And my guess is, because you said that you were collecting your child from a foster home, that you opted to go through the public system versus a private agency. Is there a lot of option for private agency adoption in the UK, or is it more that really you took the route that was available to you?
Pretty much the route that was available, I would say.
Yeah, it's not as common in the UK for private adoption.
No, this is so different here to especially to America. But yeah, very different here. There are some private adoption agencies, but we always just kind of went with our local public service, right? They were very helpful, very available, very accessible. So yeah, just
and it was there. It was there, and why not? Really,
pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, those children need and deserve homes, so why
Precisely.
not?
Yeah.
What all is involved? So you make the decision, we're going to adopt. Is it a foster to adopt system? Do you go into a public? I guess what I maybe will preface this with is, in Canada, what I can tell you is that you can go to the Children's Aid Society, which is our governing body in Ontario at least, and you can become foster parents. And potentially from there, you can adopt a child that you've been fostering if they become available for adoption. But it's especially if you're wanting a baby, it's very unlikely that you can just go in and say, okay, I want to foster to adopt. They kind of try to discourage that because there aren't a lot of babies available to be adopted that way. So do you go through a foster to adopt system? Do you go in and sort of tell them from the outset what you want and they say, come on in, we've got the babies for you? Or how did that work?
Well, we're very lucky, actually. We have done the Canadian adoption process when we lived in Canada. We did the whole process there, and we've come back to England and done the whole process here as well. So we've actually done 2 lots of the adoption process.
You are ready to be parents.
In our time. So
and it was great. Both offered different things.
It was great.
Something out of both.
Each one was very different. But yeah, there was definitely the option to foster to adopt, or to just go for adoption itself. And we just ended up, I think for us, we just went with adoption because...
Well, we did discuss it, but I don't think we wanted the risk of, with foster to adopt, if it didn't work out, then I just don't think we could have dealt with that loss.
We'd waited so long to start a family. We've gone through 2 processes. And I think it just became clear to us that when we started our family, we wanted to have the best possible chance that was going to be our forever family. I don't think we'd really prepared ourselves mentally to foster, knowing that there's a higher chance that might not come together, right?
Yeah, and you know, they did explain like the risks and the percentage, and it was, you know, fairly low. Majority of those cases that were foster to adopt would go on to adoption, but there was still that risk, and that's the way we wanted to start our family.
No, we've never been insistent on a newborn baby either, so it was never kind of that concern that we were not concerned, but that sort of thought that we wouldn't get a brand new baby as such. Like it was never on our reasons to adopt, I guess.
And for some people that's really important, but there's lots of people that are happy to be able to become parents, and the age of the child isn't necessarily as important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's pretty much where we landed as well. So we had quite a wide range actually of ages we were open to, but we were just very not fortunate, but it just so happened that we were placed with a very young child, to the point where it's like, oh my goodness, like
we weren't prepared for that.
In our heads, always prepared for a toddler, and then it was like going to be having this child that still needs bottle feeding and nappies and everything else. Like, I'd never changed a nappy in my life before. It's like, oh my goodness.
Within 24 hours, you're a professional at it, though, right?
Yeah. It's surprising how quickly you have to pick it up. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Was it from the time you decided, okay, we're ready, we're going to do it, putting ourselves forward, to the time that you were able to get through all of the home inspections and the meetings and the matching and everything else? How soon was it, or how long was it until you were able to bring your child home?
Well,
in England,
in Canada it was long.
We were very fortunate in Canada that we had started the process before we felt we were actually ready, I think, to fully commit to a family, knowing from we knew people that had gone through the system, how long it took, and it's like, I think we're there, and by the time we get there, I think we will be there. And obviously then by the time we did the English one as well, it was really ready. But we were very fortunate, but even then it didn't really prepare us for how slow everything went. It was
the paperwork and
Canadian was definitely a lot slower. I think England took about a year. About a year in total, I think, from registering our interest to pretty much being presented with a file of this child is looking for their forever family. Are you interested? But it felt a lifetime, and it's just the slowness of everything. And as you go through the process, you understand, like, obviously you can't have, you need to minimize your risk of a breakdown in adoption. So they want everything to be perfect. And we totally understand that.
Right,
but as people wanting to start their family, it was incredibly frustrating. A lot of not knowing, a lot of, we don't have any updates today.
Not hearing.
It's as opposed to when you're pregnant and in 9 months' time, it's a long wait, but pretty much you're going to be, and that's where you're going.
And then the scramble when you do suddenly get a match, that it's suddenly like, right, they want you to meet them in a week or two, and suddenly you're running around fitting baby gates everywhere and buying in high chairs, and it goes from nothing to 1,000.
Yes, and then you have to work notes like, by the way, I'm taking a year off to kind of like this for like paternity leave and everything else, and it's quite crazy really when it does get going.
Right. Oh, I'm sure. So you receive a file, you find out that there's a potential match. Do you have the opportunity then to go and meet with your child several times at measured amounts of time before you bring this child home? Or do you just go and pick up a child and say, thank you very much for keeping this child healthy and well for me till I could get here, and off you go home with this new person?
So in England, when you're ready to sort of be approved, you go in front of a panel of people to be approved as adopters. And then when you finally get a match with a child, you go for another panel to make sure that you are the right fit for that child. At the point that that's been decided, then you are allowed an introduction. Ours, well,
yeah. So they do an introduction, and it's staggered for about a week. So we would go to a foster carer's place for, like, day one would be just a couple of hours, just swing by, very easy breezy, nonchalant, and those would sort of continue to get a bit longer. And then eventually you do a bedtime routine, and then you'd go home, sleep, and come back in time for when they woke up. So then it was like you had been there. We were very lucky that our foster carers are very friendly. It's a very intrusive week, because you go and pretty much live with this foster family for half a week or so, like sitting there with them for 6-8 hours a day. Very interesting. And then for the last half of the week, then the foster carer is expected to bring the child to your house for like a couple of hours for day one, and then a bit longer for day two, and so on and so forth, until eventually you get to the last day of that process, and then that's when you go and collect them, and they come home with you.
Wow. I'm glad that it is involved like that for the child's sake as much as your own, and getting used to caring for this child and what this child's needs are and what their temperament is typically like and that kind of thing. Then the child comes home with you. Do you maintain any contact with the foster family that they were with? I mean, presumably, I don't know how old your child was when they came to you, but presumably they had, as you've discussed when we talked about your book, and we are coming back to that, but they had some kind of a connection to that foster family too.
Yeah, they absolutely had a connection. Spent a lot of time, intense time together. And I think it was left to us if we wanted to, and we've never even considered not keeping in contact with the foster. We still do. We see them very frequently. They're a part of our journey, part of our family journey, aren't they? Yeah. And I couldn't imagine them not being there. And we're very open and honest with kiddo, and let them know, like, these are your foster carers. These are the people that looked after you until you came to live with dad and daddy. And he's very understanding of that. We're just getting to that age now. It's really just starting to resonate and come together, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're an extended part of our family. They're an important part of his journey, and I couldn't imagine not keeping in contact with them. It's really important.
Yeah, definitely.
And I have heard that from other people who, a friend of mine and their partner are foster parents, and they connected me to another couple who adopted a child that they had fostered, and I have had a chance to speak with them, and they do speak almost daily to one another just about what's going on with the kids, even if it's just a quick text back and forth. And what a gift to the child to see all of their worlds come together. And even if your child was super young when you became parents to your child, that doesn't change the dynamic that they will grow up knowing that all of these people love them and want what's best for them, and have done that all of their life. That's pretty cool.
Very cool. We're very lucky that
they're lovely.
They put up with us. Hugging them all the time. Yeah. No, very much so. We're very open and honest, an age appropriate level of everything that's happened, and I think that's important to keep that narrative, right?
Absolutely. And I think our kids are just that much more lucky, because we do share their origin stories with them more, and we're just more open with our children in the queer community about how our family was created, because it can become pretty obvious once you get that one kid in grade 4 or whatever, or in pre-K or what have you, that tells you, if you've got 2 dads, then where's your mom? Because, I know where babies come from. My mom told me, or my cousin told me, or whatever. And so they're going to quickly learn okay, A plus B equals C perhaps, but B plus B, how do you get to C? That
Yeah.
kind of thing. So they get to learn these things and the nuances of it so early that it just becomes a part of who they are and their kind of regular vernacular. Like you say, you keep it age appropriate, but that's kind of a cool thing that I think our kids in our community get to grow up understanding a little bit about family creation better or differently than maybe their peers do.
100%. I love being open and honest about how we started our family. It's
Absolutely, and it's lovely because we are so open about it. We'll go pick up kiddo from daycare, and we'll hear like, "Oh, their dad and daddy are here from their friends," and they don't. These little kids think nothing of it. That kiddo's dad and daddy are here to pick them up because that's what
they have
radiate. That's what we do, right? They know no different than just like this kid has a dad and a daddy, and they're here to pick them up. And yay, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye. And,
Right.
and
We're all going to
that's
go home and have
it.
supper, and that's just the way that it is.
And
Yeah.
that's Mondays, right? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Exactly. I just think that that's pretty cool. And then you gave some thought to it. So what triggered for you? And I don't, triggers maybe not the right word because I don't necessarily, I assume maybe it was. I shouldn't say that. I don't know. So what prompted the two of you to sit back and look and think, okay, we need to take this perfectly muddled family and go into space a little bit with this because we need people to think more about these children as they transition from one family living dynamic to another. Hold on for just a moment. We'll be right back.
If you're currently pregnant, then you should know that your umbilical cord and placenta are super rich with stem cells. These stem cells have been used to treat type 1 diabetes, different types of cancers, heart disease, multiple sclerosis, cerebral palsy, and more. With Anja Health, you can actually freeze these stem cells at birth, so your family always has access to that perfect match for your family to use for future disease treatment. To do this, just bring an Anja Health kit with you to birth, tell your provider to place the umbilical cord and placenta in the kit, and then call us for pickup. Get your kit today at anjahealth.com, and don't forget to use the code babyREADY for a surprise discount from babyREADY Live.
I think it was just the same with the first book, really, that the lack of
no one's telling that story.
That no one seems to have told that. Maybe they have, and I don't know. Apologies if anyone has told that story and I've missed it. I can't find that story anywhere, and it's something that really bamboozled us and something that is very hard for a child to probably comprehend. And I think it just having an age-appropriate book that you can read and understand and have a message of, it's time to move to the next chapter, but that doesn't diminish the chapter we've had, and that's. It's going to be tough to move on.
Acknowledge the emotions that are going to be surrounding that.
It's such a. We go on to talk about like how they go to this. The astronaut goes to this new place, and there's new sounds, new smells, a completely new environment. There's a level of trust that needs to be built up, and all of these things are so easily in your head. Like, well, they'll come live with us, and we'll be their family at the end. But the reality is that's not how it works, and there doesn't seem to be a lot out there that prepares people for that, right? So it's kind of where that book came from, really. And the first one was the same in that there's not too many books with two dads and a transracial family in the theme, and it's something that we couldn't find until we wrote it. And the same with this one, really.
And with the Journey to Space book, it is focused on adoption, fostering to adoption, but it's also it's any big change in life that the kids are going through when they move from one school to another. It's about those
leaving a chapter behind and starting a new chapter, and that it's okay to acknowledge that chapter we're leaving behind. We put so much emphasis on starting that new chapter that it's hard to forget what we're leaving behind, right? So it's kind of the logic behind the book. Yeah.
I think it's brilliant, quite frankly. I think that you say you don't know if anybody else has written a book like this. I don't think anybody has, because I don't think there are enough people who have truly gone through the whole process of adopting through the foster care system, who then, once they have a child, I mean, you're mired in the parenting day to day all the time. And so to slow down long enough and look back and think, oh, well, maybe that was harder for them than I thought it might have been. Maybe we need to make sure that there are resources out there for other people, just like there are resources for our own family. I mean, yes, that's where it started. You're right. You could do it for going away to school or changing schools or moving into a new house. There's all kinds of different big life changes that can take place. But that first fundamental one that the two of you plus your child kind of navigated, that's a huge transition. And I don't think that most people would slow down long enough to look back and think, maybe that's why my child was behaving like this or asking these questions or wanting these things or what have you. So I actually think you're pretty cutting edge. You just maybe, you're trying to be humble about it, but you shouldn't be. I think you should be patting yourselves on the back.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think, as you say, taking the time, it's, as kiddo has gotten older, we've started to recognize, and we said we keep in touch with the foster carers, and it's now we have to tell that story and look back and reflect. And I think that is kind of what helped us devise that story, to be like, actually, that is something that kind of we didn't see coming. And yeah, it's
great. You can't hide from these things. And as kiddo grows, and you have to start explaining their life story and their journey, you can't hide from these truths, and it's very raw. It makes you look at everything. So it's very reflective. And then, as you say, then it makes you think, well, why don't we write about this?
Yeah, if it's happened to us, it's probably happened to someone else. It's the same premise with the first book, right? If we've experienced it, we can't be the first one. Someone else must have done, right? And it's like, so yeah, essentially that was what led to it.
I love it, and I hope everybody takes the time to familiarize themselves with it. And I don't just mean for families who are created through the foster care system. I think all families, and I've said this before, I don't know if you're familiar with Tom Tracy and Tom Tracy's books, the Scoochie and Skittles series, but again, I say the same kind of thing. Even if you aren't a two-dad family, that doesn't mean that your child doesn't benefit from having the opportunity to have these stories read to them at bedtime just as much as the Velveteen Rabbit, because I'm pretty sure neither of you are rabbits, but the message of the story still resonates. And I think that our kids need to be exposed to stories that reflect themselves and different people around the community that they may be.
Absolutely. We read our child numerous books, as I say, with a mum and a dad every day, and it's like, so we always say it would be lovely if someone could just pick up our book, even if they're not a two-dad or a queer family, and read it and explain, this is the world we live in now. Like, we've moved past the traditional, if I dare say in air quotes, traditional family, and like there's so much more representation out there now.
And spoiler, the crux of the first book is, a family is who loves you, whoever that may be. And I think that's just such an important message for every single family to understand, and every single youth growing up in this new generation to understand that, there's a lot of hate and prejudice out there, and there's a lot of, opinions and people have grown up having opinions passed down. But really at the core of it all is a family is who loves you, whoever that may be.
And I fully agree. So, okay, we've gone off on these other tangents, and there's so many things I want to ask you. When it comes to the foster system, you investigated it in Canada. You know that it is essentially a free program. Is it also a free program in the UK, that if you become part of the public system to adopt, that there isn't a fee necessarily out of pocket, although you still have to prepare for the home study and make sure you purchase the things for a child, but all parents do?
Yeah, no, there is no fees involved for the adoption process here in England. We're very, very fortunate in that sense. I know foster carers get an allowance for foster children here. I'm not sure what that is. I don't think it's enough to meet demand, but certainly a little to offset, I'm sure. But no, we've been very lucky in that there's been no real financial burden as such for starting our family.
That's pretty. It makes it easier and a little bit more accessible to folks who want to create a family through parenthood.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Although that's not to say that our finances haven't been scrutinized numerous times to make sure that we are prepared. So to say that there is no financial burden isn't necessarily true, in that you still have a lot to prove before you can start your family. So you certainly need to be in a good position before you can do that. So I guess in that sense there is.
Yeah. But no upfront cost to go through the process.
Right. And then of course you're also the emotional cost of having to put all of your everything, you're bearing your soul to be able to have everybody, as you say, scrutinize how much you bring in, how much goes out, how you live, everything. They come in and investigate your home to make sure. So it does feel like you're under a microscope.
Yeah.
Beyond a microscope, I think we looked at our lives more than we've ever looked at it before going through this process.
It was great though. It was like free counseling.
A lot of people should have it. Whereas I must say, we unpacked things we didn't know even needed unpacking, I guess, to a degree. We often say anyone starting a family should actually take that sort of reflection time.
I've heard that universally from virtually everybody I know who's gone through the foster system, says that the counseling and the courses and the classes they had to take was something that they wish all parents, regardless of how families are created, all parents had to take, because it was so invaluable.
It is invaluable. Just the information that you don't have to parent how parenting used to be, that you could, that the world has moved on. It's an incredible process, but incredibly invasive. You really do have to open up and let everything out. And it's we're very fortunate, but I think if you're in, someone that hasn't dealt with a lot of past trauma, that could be, an incredibly distressful time for you, right? So, but I guess that's why they do it, so that you can unpack that before you do start your family, right?
Yeah, it's a million times harder once kids there to process all that stuff, because you're so focused on the kid and the family life, and so it's brilliant, really, that they do it. It might not feel like it to everyone at the time, but it is brilliant.
I think most of us feel that way about therapy and counseling, though, in general, though, don't we? When we're going through it and we're bearing our souls, whether we're doing it as a couple, whether we're doing it as an individual, whether we're doing it in preparation for adopting a child, when we go through that process of having to really truly look at ourselves and scrutinize ourselves, forget other people looking at us and scrutinizing us, but when we have to look at ourselves, that is a pretty raw feeling, for sure.
Absolutely, yes. You certainly learn a lot more about yourself. Just tapping back in and just saying it out loud is, incredibly therapeutic. It's great. Yeah, definitely recommend it.
Everybody bare their souls. It feels great.
Yeah. What could go wrong? Yeah.
What could go wrong? Yeah. Exactly. You've been through the parenting transition from not parents to parents, and now you have a child who's 4. Have there been times throughout the journey that you have felt like you were being othered for being queer parents or wanting to create a family?
I would say so. I feel we're always on display to some degree.
Yes.
Very different when we lived in Canada. It wasn't a big sort of major city. Here we've opted for small town England. We have yet to organically bump in to a 2-dad family in the 4 years or so we've lived here, and I highly doubt we will. But you never know. Maybe
a rare breed.
We are a bit of a rare breed. So we're very lucky in that a lot of our community around here are quite tight-knit and have accepted us for who we are. We don't leave the house with a giant pride flag, but we don't hide who we are either. We are who we say we are. And we walk out the house with our head held high like any other family would do. That's not to say everyone understands our family. Not everyone can comprehend that. It's the little looks, isn't it? It's the little looks that you see.
It's not what's said is,
Yes, it's, oh, look, that child with the 2 dads is having a meltdown, even though you probably walked past 3 families where their child has had a meltdown. You can't help but think they've walked past these 3 other families and nothing, but they've looked up and gone like, oh, of course.
The 2 dads.
And maybe some of that self-projection, but maybe it's not as well.
Definitely a sense of always being on show. You always
having
feel
to
like
prove yourself, having
prove
to
yourself, bring your A game.
Absolutely right. And you can't help but have little looks, and you can't help but sort of be like, call ourselves dad and daddy, so that people understand that we're not two men with this child, like that we are a family. We're fine around our area, but sometimes we'll sort of go to places where no one knows us, and we have felt the need to say, like, oh, come along, kiddo, come follow dad and daddy, just so that people looking understand that we're not, especially when they're having this meltdown in the street and we're kind of like trying to get them to move and they don't want to. It's like, come on, bud, like, it's time to follow. And never a good look when it's just two dudes dragging a child away. And it's like, you feel you have to explain now, right? Like, it's like people work.
Yes. You're seeing people recording things and pulling out phones, and you're thinking, maybe we should explain ourselves and our connection to this child.
Yeah,
but it's true. It's
true.
true.
I would say, yes.
It is true. Are there any words of caution that you would share with other members of the queer community about how you created your family, or the dynamics of going through the foster system? Or has it, by and large, other than taking time and feeling scrutinized, which we've talked about, been fairly smooth? And it's allowed to be. You don't have to look for things to caution about, but are there things that they should know about if they're there?
I think you have to have a lot of patience. I think it could be very easy to get frustrated in the process. It's very lengthy. It's very slow. It's very a lot of silence, a lot of radio silence, a lot of the time, a lot of not knowing. And I can see how that would probably put people off, or even sort of, frustrate them out of wanting to continue with that, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Good question.
That's a good question.
I think, it's having the patience, playing the game, right? Like, they know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
If they're doing it, even if you think it's pointless. On one of the training courses we did, which we had to do, there was an exercise we had to homework, and we're like, why are we doing this? And eventually, by the end of it, it comes back in like, oh, that makes complete sense. So I think it's believe in the system, believe they've done this many times, and they say it a lot of the time. But really, when you get that kid, you understand everything they do is for the kid. Everything they do is to make sure,
through the eyes of the child.
Through the eyes of the child, yeah. So I think it is, as frustrating as that can be sometimes, it's like, believe in that system, but also don't be afraid to ask questions.
Be a nuisance when you have to be.
Yeah.
We managed. I think the only reason we got through in a year is that we were very insistent that we didn't particularly want to keep waiting. And I think that not that we've got a reputation, but I think our eagerness probably shone through a little bit. So I think that's probably a good thing. And what I would say is, what I've heard from other people is, pick the right agency. No, I've spoken to some that have said, we went to an open day and they didn't have the time of day for us as two dads. They didn't particularly seem to want to stick around and chat for us during their open day. So my advice would always be, go to an open day, get a feel for the agency. Do they seem queer friendly? And if not, then are you better off finding someone that is? I think that's probably my big take home. We were so lucky with ours. Our social worker is still a good dear friend of ours. We still see her.
They came to our wedding.
They came to our wedding. So we made a great connection. We were so lucky. But I can see how with the wrong person, it could be a much more difficult and scenario. And I know everyone has sort of this. We can't discriminate, but we have what the workplace tells us and how people feel internally, and it's trying to read between the lines of, like, have you got the right agency to get you to that finish line, I suppose.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that we all end up doing that with different things in our lives. We finally get to a point where we've made a decision, we want to do this. So now that we've made the decision, we want it to happen tomorrow. We don't want to have it take a long time. And so that probably is the best kind of, but we also want to fit in wherever we go, because we can often say yes to wherever we go because they've got what we want. And maybe that's not best.
I think when you get to the decision as well, like, listen to your gut. Like,
what does your gut say?
You're so eager to be like, well, we've waited all this time for this kid. Like, maybe this would work. It's like that, we're represented with a lot of profiles, and we're like, oh, that sounds great. Yeah, that's lovely. But I think when we found our match, it's like we just knew.
We
and
just
I think,
knew.
you know, we were desperate to get
Start
on
our
with this
family.
process and start the family. But you've got to think long term. It's like, it's easy to say yes now, but they are forever family. And you've got to make sure that you can, it's recognizing your
own
weaknesses and
limitations, right?
limitations.
It's like, can we give a child everything they need based on what their current needs are and what their future needs may be? And it's, you know, I would say don't start a family just because this is the first one and we're in a hurry, let's go. It's like, make sure, you know, as much as you're a right fit for them, that they're the right fit for you, right? And it's like, I think we were very lucky with our child. Like, they have taken to a two-dad family very, very well. And I think, knowing what we knew about them beforehand, we had sort of hoped that that would be the case, right? And so we've been very lucky. And I think there was a reason that they selected us for Kiddo. And we've been very lucky to have that connection that continues to play through. Knocking on wood. So yeah, it is just waiting for that right child, right? And yes, even if that does mean taking the longer time to get there.
Absolutely. Tell me about your very, very favorite parts of parenting, because at the end of the day, anybody who's a parent knows that there are going to be lots of times that are frustrating and challenging, but we do this because they're so darn cute. But beyond their cuteness, what is your very favorite parts of parenting?
Watching them grow, learn things, develop, and
seeing your, dare I say, wisdom in brackets passed down and play out in front of you, to see that little person growing up, to see them becoming the person, to make their own educated thoughts, to let them wander free and watch them do it, and know that you've put that work in, and that little person can go and do a new task. Like, they've learned to use the toilet now, and you've put that time and effort in, and you know they can go and do it, and it's an incredible thing. Just as silly as that sounds, just to go to the toilet, it's like, it's very rewarding to know that you help them get there, right?
And, you know, of course, the laughter and the smiles, and when they turn around and look at you and say, "I love you," it's like, you've put all that effort in to teach them emotion and love and family, and then when they look back at you on their own free will and say, "I love you, Dad. I love you, Daddy," it's so,
to put all that patience and all that time in, and to see the rewards. It's such a slow burn that when you finally get to the end result, it makes it all worthwhile. It's beautiful.
Yeah, those unsolicited "I love yous" go an awfully long way.
We say it's like a drug.
It's like a drug. Once you
get that high, you want it again, but you keep chasing it, and
it happens organically. You can't really make that happen, and so then when it does, as you say, it's so special that
so
they've
much more.
taken it from inside and said it and shown it. Is that's why we get up and do it every morning.
Absolutely. And it's hard work, so there has to be perks in it that make us want to get up and do it every day, right? I mean, that's just a statement of fact.
Way more hard work than I was told. I didn't know my weekends were going to be taken up by so much child stuff.
There's no off switch.
We used to get so much done on weekends, and then like a child came along, and it's like, when am I supposed to do my stuff for me?
Between 3 and 4 in the morning on Wednesdays, that's about the time that's golden out for you. Please tell everyone where they can find your books, and are there any other books that you're thinking about writing down the road at some point?
You can find our books on Amazon under My Perfectly Muddled Family or My Perfectly Muddled Journey to Space. We do have another book in mind. Obviously a slow process. I'm not too sure when that will come out, but we definitely are workshopping a book right now. So very excited to keep growing our book brand and keep promoting that message of queer families, adoption, and kindness out there in the world. Those are our three kind of things that we like to focus on our Instagram and in our books. And I think if we can hit those points, we'll be happy with what we're spending our time doing.
Yeah. And we've got our website at perfectlymuddled.com. Says a little bit more about us as two dads and has links to our books and all
that good stuff.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you both for taking the time to chat with me and for introducing my listeners to your Perfectly Muddled family and all that it has, how it has evolved.
No worries. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me today on the Becoming Baby Ready podcast. If you have a story that you'd like to share, or you know someone who might, if you're a professional who works in the capacity of helping people start and grow their families, and you identify as being a part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community yourself, then please don't hesitate to reach out. We always have room for more stories to share, and there's always more learning to do.